Alright, okay. Welcome back to Nick Lenz's Comic Corner, Classic, and Non-Classics. This is episode number 3423. Doubleshot number 3317. Well, with these two particular trades, they're both second to last one discussed here. Well, this is Darkwing Duck at first, and then Star Trek book. First, there was Darkwing Duck Comics Collection, Volume 1, Orange is a New Purple. This is published by Joe Books. Yes. Now, this book, unlike the book by Dynamite, which apparently just set in its own reboot continuity, this book in particular picks up right where the Boom Studios book left off. Yep. Also, Darkwing himself is now wearing a tie. Yep. That's a new addition to this particular book. So this book contains the first... I think it's the first 4 issues, I think it is. I did see somewhere basically in here was like the first few issues, but I know this is the first half because there's one more trade after this, and then that's it. Basically, same creative team as the book from first 4 issues. So, yeah, same creative team as the Boom Studios book. Like I mentioned before, the reason why that this switched companies because Boom Studio lost license to publish Disney comics. And it's not been out there per se, but someone who did work for them as an editor, he basically stated, I heard this on Critic Clinical, that the reason why that Boom Studios lost the Disney license, despite the fact they put out really good stuff, is because over a one-shot they were asked to produce based on a Pixar property. I'm not sure which one it was. They never stated. And apparently, this one-shot was supposed to take, I think it was supposed to be about a couple months, I think it was. And they wanted the artist fish in half that time, and Disney didn't like it. Yeah, they thought this thing looked awful. So, this was a catalyst to end their agreement with Boom Studios. Yes, this is, and also because they apparently just lost all faith in Boom Studios to publish their comic books. So they pulled the license from them, and they moved the Joe Books for a little bit. Now they publish over at Dynamite. Yes. So, it is reporting in St. Canard about this, and we see this thing come up the tunnel. And it turns out it's Megavolt. Yep, he's back. And of course, basically, it's basically a parade. He's basically piloting it, and you have Darkwing here now with his brand new addition to his outfit now, where he wears a tie. As for why they decided to add him a tie, this I think it's clearly the same continuity. Unknown. So they found, of course, then we have where they meet with the Metafoots, where Goslin and basically his next door neighbors. Now, Darkwing himself, I kind of wish they referred to him by his real name when he's not in the costume, but nope. At first it was either DW. Heck, Goslin doesn't even know his real name at all. He just wears his outfit when he's not, it looks like he's wearing just a shirt and pants, but that's actually feathers. Yes, believe it or not, that is actually feathers. That's not pants. That is actually feathers he's wearing. Yep. So we're playing with kids, and of course, basically, that we deal with that, and it's like $10 discount on the power. And he pays $10. And Megavolt is transported, and then for some weird reason, we have, it's supposed to confiscate the gear. And then this guard is knocked out by some mysterious person. Oh, yeah, I thought it was foul. No. It's actually an organization known as Shush. And they've taken over one of the Taurus Bull satellites. And now it's the primary base, but they don't have faith to be Darkwing's base. Probably because this base was destroyed during that crossover with DuckTales. So, of course, they're going to field trip to the local prison, where They show all the various criminals. Now, this reminds me a lot of the one-shot Iron Heights published by DC Comics, written by Jeff Johns, which that was the one-shot introduced to prison Iron Heights. That's where they keep all the criminals. And to see the various criminals, of course, that we see throughout the classic Darkwing Duck villains. And then turns out this particular guard is none other than Negaduck, who is back, despite the fact that when he was last seen, he was shoved in a dimension. And by the way, no one bothers to ask, like, how the heck are you back, dude? You got sucked in a dimension with that slime stuff you got involved with magic of the spell. Nope, he's back, and basically then he just randomly transforms into Darkwing Duck to basically, and Darkwing Duck summons. He shows up, it's like, I'm the terror that flaps in the night. He's like, yep, right on time. And then he spits in his hand and summons basically a mallet to smack him. Because, it's based on a cartoon. And then, of course, Megavolt is recharged thanks to bending a metal bar like it's... Actually, no, it's more like a giant version of a... And proceeds to recharge him, and of course, they kick him, and of course... Yeah, now he's trapped in the prison with all of his criminals. Yep, this sounds a lot like Iron Heights, like something to do with Flash. It's like the writers took inspiration from Jeff Johns' Flash. Because I think there was a story where he was briefly trapped in Iron Heights. He had to fight his way out thanks to fighting his own villains. So now he goes controlling the prison. And of course, basically, you have Darkwing just sneaking around with his 2 guns. And then Spooked by Liquidator drops his guns. And then he's defeated by... So, then he fires sponges out of his guns. Which is nothing. The Liquidator basically just, like, fires a bunch of detergent on him. He's like, And then the ship falls over, and the Liquidator's trapped with the soap, which is so funny. And then we have Muck Duck, which is this garbage duck. Which I'm sure this is probably a take on Flash villain Tar Pit. Yes, where he looks like this. Yeah, I'm sure a take on Tar Pit. And this guy with a clock for a head is probably a take on Clock King. And of course, there's Taurus there. Gosalyn's doing like she's like John McClane. And then we have where one of the prisoners is a janitor. And then we have like this obsessive fan who Gosling easily defeats very easily. And then we see a cat. This mysterious cat who's got these pictures. Who this cat is, they don't really say. Like, they say it's like, this one was like a general. And then apparently off-screen, Darkwing Duck beats up the Beagle Boys. Yep, he defeats 3 of them. Apparently they were kept in this prison for some reason. Not sure why. But you're like, wait, why the heck are the Beagle Boys even here? Aren't they in a separate prison? Because in the DuckTales show, they were kept not in a place like this. They were kept in a completely different prison with all the family together, except for the mother. And then Darkwing proceeds to fire his gun into Launchpad's mouth. Just blows up, suffocates him. And it turns out, nope, this is not Launchpad. This is somebody else. This is Chameleon. Says, see classic Disney Darkwing episode, Charm a Chameleon. Yes, a villain appeared in 1 episode, and then we have, trying to break him out of course, and we have, also for some reason, Megavolt wearing a hard hat, which has been usual for him. And he's a big cat, and then we have, like, we have to do this octopus, which... The whole thing of the lower body being like this is probably a nod to Ursula from The Little Mermaid. Yeah, that's obviously a nod to that. And of course, then with this for a while, and then the cat proceeds to beat up Megavolt. Stomps on his foot, scratches his nose, and like, nope. And after this is defeated, we have the guard just randomly beat up Darkwing. And it turns out they're in control of the reporter from the last series, the one who tried to launch a smear campaign against him when he was running for mayor of St. Canard. Yep, she is here. Which you would think, like, wait, why is she in prison for guys? Some franchises like mixing, having like a big prison where you have one section for guys, one section for girls. I guess they had to mix per se. So, yeah, and of course you have Darkwing about the sacrifice. And look, here's the reporter who tried to smear him from that penultimate story before that crossover with DuckTales. Yeah, she's back here, and then we have Darkwing just... Oh, then we have him transform into a playing card, where she's looking like a ball. Which, yeah, this panel here, that's clearly not the Haunted Mansion. And then he tries to walk the plank, like she's from the Pirates of the Caribbean. And the thing is, I'm sure that the writer himself probably got permission from Disney to do all these references to Disney stuff. So, then we have this female villain who's like a female Mr. Freeze, who likes to freeze people, and then she is like, oh. And then we have a reference, not to a Disney stuff thing, oh no. We have reference to A Christmas Story, where he thinks she kisses Darkwing, but actually kisses a pole. Okay, this is a reference to A Christmas Story, where one of the most famous scenes in the movie is a kid who was dared to stick his tongue and touch a frozen pole. Yep, and she's stuck there. And then, of course, the plant villain is just rattling up basically a chem lab. Makes more creatures and, like, spooked. And then we have a monkey. Yes, a monkey. And then Liquidator's back. And let's use the railgun from the crossover stuff, which they somehow... The person kept the railgun from that massive crossover, that massive storyline, which is a reference to Crisis on Infinite Earths. Screaming the girl. It's Gosling. Yep. And, I got to shoot him. But then, of course, Darkwing proceeds to break out of the restraints because he's Darkwing Duck, and I guess he's basically Disney's version of Batman because he can get out of anything like he's Harry Houdini. Then, Gosling's holding on to her dad, and then, of course, freeing her friend who's a cat. And then we have, Ice Calamity, and of course he proceeds to deal with her by judo flipping her into freezing her body in this water. And everybody's so cold. The cat villain escapes. Megaville is put back in his cell. And he asks, what are you still doing here? It doesn't matter. I said, I'm playing the long game, Sparky. Your mastermind needs a secret base. So apparently he's saying the president to be a secret base. And then they shut it off. And then, of course, the cat comes home with somebody inside of his bag. And then, we're not ending there. Oh, no. And we have the covers Can Darkwing Duck defeat the most powerful villain of all? Yes, and a cover that's a clear homage to Batman #8. So in St. Canard, he's basically then he just does his catchphrase in the show. And then there's a jewel robbery. There's a bug, and then he's act crazy for some reason, and turns out it's this tiny villain. Yes. He's jumping with a bag of pennies. A bag of pennies. Okay, that's funny. And then a bag of pennies drops on him. Okay, that's kind of funny. And then there's a safe. Then he gets put in a safe. And then his head is stuck in there for a while. And then he goes big. And then we see his various vehicles. His cycle. His secret lair. Where he also has weights for himself to work out. Which I thought was really cool. And apparently he's got his own, get this, so Darkwing inside of his version of the Batcave has got his own version of a trophy case. We have the various villains he defeated having their gadgets in his secret lair. Like he's either Batman or Superman. Now, in case you're curious, though, has any superhero Marvel Comics ever did this, where they actually have a collection of trophies from villains they've beaten? Besides, in the case of DC, aside from Batman and Superman, I think like the only other people who actually have this is the Justice League and the Teen Titans. Well, the Titans mostly. So yeah, then of course thing is stolen. Then we have Fowl's metal beak basically just appear here. Yeah. And then randomly like pay a visit to like a Megavolt, like, here, we'll bear this fee in exchange and get like 10 years of the sentence. Like 7, done. It's like 5 whole years after your 5 whole years off of one of your 6 life sentences. 10 years, 6, 7, done. You sucker. Helps him out, of course. Takes time off of course, to go back to jail after this, obviously. And to make the world's biggest bug zapper. And then we have randomly in the suburbs of St. Canard, where you have this guy, looks like he's a comic artist, and he receives something in the mail. Something information, he's laughing. And that's it. Yep, so then we have the Shush Files, where we have a thing about Negaduck, where first appearance, Justice Ducks, Disney's Dark Season 1, Episode 20. Liquidator appeared in Dry Hard, Episode 36. Megavolt, Episode 8, Duck Blind. Quackerjack, who in the comic last saw he was turned into a toy, appeared in Episode 29, Waffle While You Work. Bushfruit debuted in Episode 3, Beauty and the Beat. Steel Beak debuted in Episode 10, Watch Your Way to Go. Dr. Fausti, he was the guy appearing in this book. He appeared in Episode 25, Jurassic Jumble. Poker Face debuted in the Disney Adventures Magazine, Volume 3, Issue 3, Feeling Flushed. One Shot debuted in the previous comic series, Issue 13, Done 1. And then we have a little thing about the bad guys, and that's it. Overall, really good book. Thoroughly enjoyed it, and I had to be right back. Okay. Sorry about that. Alright, so. By the way, I give the book roughly a 10 out of 10. Next up we have a Star Trek by Mike Johnson, Volume 8. Yes, Volume 8. And, like in the case of Darkwing Duck, this one here, there is one trade left because for some weird reason, this app doesn't have Volumes 10, 13, which means I'm going to have to look them up afterwards. So, no subtitle for this one, sadly. But there is one other subject book I can do from this book series. I think it's on Mike Johnson. It's called Countdown to Darkness, which I don't think I reviewed that. So this book contains issues 29, 34 of the comic, which means after this I have like 16 issues left to go for the whole series. So we have Parallel Lives, I Enterprise, and Lost Apollo. So, Parallel Lives. So, yeah, there's a reason. It's basically a gender reverse timeline for Star Trek. After freeing some prisoners. And then we have three people being down. We have a woman who, this is Jane. So, we definitely see people as, get this, Lieutenant Commander Spock, who is a woman in this universe, Captain Jane Tiberia Kirk. Why Spock Lieutenant Commander is a full commander? Not really known. And Yeoman Jason Brand, as a nod to Jason Brand. Janice Brand. Yeah, basically Janice is a guy in this universe. Scotty is a woman named Moderate Scotty Scott. Oh yeah, also Uhura is a guy here. McCoy is basically anybody who's a guy in the regular timeline and a woman. I think the gender's reversed. So heck, even we have a female Chekhov and a female Sulu. Yep. Oh, and they do bring up the fact that this version of her is still in relation with this version, this universe version of. So then after chatting, and of course I mentioned about the Kelvin stuff. Yeah, and this apparently is only supposed to be a version of Pike. And so apparently in this universe, her mom was the captain of Kelvin, not her father. Okay. Interesting. Oh yeah, and also they reference the events of Into Darkness, where apparently Khan is now a woman in this universe. Also, basically, Carol is now Carl, and Skylar is now Kestra. So, and then by the end of the book, they meet up with their their version of reverse gender. Basically, everybody's a guy, and like they meet up with each other, and nice little exchange. It's a nice little comic per se. This whole two-parter, and then randomly, you have Kirk running through the hallways. And then he runs into Prime Mirror Universe Kirk. Yep, that was by complete random. And then in engineering, where basically the two Scotties meet up with Geordi LaForge in his only appearance in this comic book. Yeah, this whole series, that's his sole appearance. Picard appears actually the very next story arc, by the way. Yes. So I have to say the goodbyes, and is this all book? Not really, because next story is called I Enterprise, where basically we kind of get the backstory of the android who appears on the bridge Into Darkness, and this issue here is basically the android's backstory, or basically he is a sentient version of the Enterprise itself, and this whole issue here is basically his debut and origin. If I came to be, I don't remember he appeared into Beyond. I don't remember. So they have Lost Apollo, where you have a flashback to 1970 Cocoa Beach, Florida. Guy comes with his wife, she's pregnant, and well, standard selfie mission, and of course Carol's here too. And basically, the whole thing of this is that they find this person, this planet, who actually been there for 200 years. Because the environment transformed into this creature, and he has this piece of paper from before he left Earth from his child, drawn by a kid, and he apparently had to briefly turn back normal. But apparently the only way for him to live is to go back down the planet, become the creature again, but remember who he is. It's a nice little story in a nutshell. I thought it was really good. Yeah. Everything in here is fantastic. And I give this book a 10 out of 10. Sadly put, basically, the app only has one more trade left. Volume 9. And for some reason, they don't have volumes 10 to 13 on here. Not sure why, but they don't. I kind of wish they did, but they just sadly don't, like I said. Yep, so yeah, that's pretty much a particular video. Please be sure to like, comment, subscribe, turn notifications. Next up we have is basically Case Closed. Yep. And I do have one more Comic Con ready to go. Yes, one more. And then afterwards, I'm going to go ahead and do the penultimate episode of the Banished Core Edition 8 Strongest. Okay, next video. Bye.